Hello, and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin with the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great. How about you, Eric?
I'm doing wonderful. We are heading into spring and things are slowly warming up, but we're still getting snow around the country.
Yeah, fortunately not here, but I guess Northern New England probably got it yesterday when we got the rain, but or on Saturday. But it's looking gorgeous out there, walking around the neighborhood all the time and seeing the daffodils come out and listening to the birds singing and the peeper frogs and all that. It's just it's a fantastic time of year.
Yeah, we're now into daylight savings time, so we have a little extra sunlight at the end of the day. It's great
Yeah,
to get out, take a walk, take some deep breaths,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
enjoy the time.
Yeah, I mean, I like to grill all year, and now that we have daylight savings time, I don't have to turn my back light on to do that. So it's great.
All right. Well, today we're going to talk about networking. And of course, we've talked about networking quite a bit over the past years. But today we're going to talk about being a super connector. And let's face it, when you're talking about networking, the super connector is the person everybody wants to know. Not because of what they can do for you necessarily, but because whatever the need is, they know who to connect you to. And that's a big part of networking.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you and I obviously both teach this and have done a lot over the years. And I mean, one of my favorite ones is the super networkers are people who know everybody. So if you want to know a plumber, ask your lawyer. If you
Right.
that kind of thing. And basically, when we talk about networking, for you to give me a referral, obviously I have to have credibility with you. And so at networking meetings, one of the best things you can do to earn credibility and start your way to becoming a super connector is if you see two people at that meeting and you know that they need to know each other because they could possibly help each other out with referrals and so on and so forth, take it upon yourself to introduce the two of them. And there's nothing better than seeing those two interact 10 minutes later, already starting on the road to do that. And it's just such a cool thing. And if you become known as that connector, that's somebody who knows everybody, everybody's going to gravitate to you too. That's one of the quickest ways to earn credibility is to be known as that super giver, just introducing people because they need to know each other. And there's nothing in it from your benefit except really the good feeling in your heart that you have just in connecting people because that's just the right thing to do.
Absolutely. But, I want to take a step back from there because how do you know that two people need to meet each other? Well, it starts even before you're going to events, even before you're introducing people. You need to cultivate a genuine interest in others. And how do you do that? Well, you need to pay attention to people. You need to ask open ended questions instead of just sticking to small talk. Ask people questions that encourage them to share about themselves. Learn about not just their job, but their experiences, their goals, their hobbies, their passions. And while you're talking to people, you need to do active listening. We talked about this several weeks ago. Pay close attention to what people are saying. Respond thoughtfully. Don't focus on what your response is. Listen to what they're saying and then formulate the response. And it's okay to take a pause and think for a minute, but you need to be paying attention to what they're saying. And then you need to be able to empathize with people and offer support when necessary. If someone is facing a challenge, it could be a personal challenge, a professional challenge. If they're seeking advice, you need to be there to lend a hand, listen to what they need, and when you can do something, do it. And if you can't do something, think about who can. And that's really where networking starts, is that interest in other people. Because as we've said so many times, yeah, networking is about people. When you go to a networking event, it's not about what you can get out of the event. It's about who you can help.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to go into it. Networking is just a process of developing women relationships. I mean, that's my definition, and that really is a universal definition. And in order to do that, you have to have the proper mindset yourself that you're in this to help people out. I mean, as you know, and a lot of people know, I used to be a B&I director, and their slogan is givers gain. That's it,
Yep.
givers gain. Because if people are just going out to networking meetings, and a lot of people are forced to do that for their business, and they think they're going to go out and get business because that's what they're told. And it just doesn't work out that way. And they fail at it because they're just out there trying to make sales and so on. But you have to have the networking mindset, which starts with loving what you're doing or wanting to do what you're doing from the heart. And if you're not doing that, then one of the best things you can do when you're networking is possibly ask people, do you have any idea of other things that I might be able to do to get to know somebody? Because that's what it's all about. And you mentioned, I mean, the key word there is listening, because you can go through the motions and walk up to somebody, introduce yourself, and ask them what they're doing. But if you're looking over their head and thinking about the next thing that you're going to say and not listening to what they're saying, I mean, they're going to see right through you then. What these super connectors do is they go up and they try and help out people, again, by asking questions, just like you're saying, that lead them to whatever their need is for the day. It could be business, but it could be a whole lot of other things, for direction. I mean, one of the things that just happened to me over the weekend, I think I'd mentioned before that I have a deacon at church that was looking, he's the commander of the local Avon VFW post, and they wanted to bring a refugee family from Afghanistan whose principal helped out there. Well, they actually landed a family in West Hartford last week, and it turned to a family of six. And obviously, the network there through the Rotary and some other things got the house in West Hartford. But when they got here last week and met for the first time, we found out that the father is very well versed, and he has a really extensive background in a lot of different things over there. I'm not going to get into detail, but he's a lot more qualified than packing groceries at a Big Y or something like that. And so what the deacon said is, told me what he was all about. And I said, send me the information. And I'm going to be helping look for something very, very specific based upon this person's amazing qualifications. And again, it's all through networking and wanting to help out. And this all happened with an idea where the deacon was actually at a meeting with my wife, and that's how she found out about it, which is how I found out about it, even though he and I are very, very close. So, I mean, it's just amazing the different things that you can accomplish that you don't even know just through these relationships that you have. So don't be afraid to ask for anything specifically. I mean, he reached out to me because he knew I was connected in the chamber and stuff like that. And I said, let's do coffee. And here we are 5 or 6 months later, and it's just amazing. And in the Christian world of things, it's pretty amazing that they came out right before Holy Week, and we talk about the resurrection, so on and so forth. Because for this whole family, this literally is a new opportunity. And my wife actually got to go meet the kids and the mom last week, and it was just so heartwarming. So there's so many things. Obviously, business is one of them, but life in itself is a whole lot better the more close friends that you develop and the more that you introduce other people to each other and encourage them to do the same thing. If they see you as an example, they're going to learn from you just by watching you. And that's one of the ways to become a super connector yourself, is to just follow the examples of what you're learning from other people, because you can do it too. Anybody can.
Abs- Absolutely. And of course, regular listeners of the Success Showcase will remember this story because the deacon was on our podcast several months back talking about that project. So
Yep.
that just goes to show how those networks expand. And of course, when you're building the network, one of the most basic things that you have to do, and this is something that a lot of people fall down on, is you actually have to show up. You have to go to networking events. not just once in a while. You need to be a regular fixture. It doesn't always have to be the same networking event, but when you find one that you do like, you need to go back. You need to do as many of them as possible. Why? Because you want people to recognize you. It takes time to build relationships. And when you go to these networking events, there's certain things that you do have to do that, again, a lot of people fall down with. And the number one thing that you have to do at these events is approach new people. It is so common for folks to go to a networking event and just hang out with the people they already know, catch up with friends. Well, that's great, but it's not really networking. You need to stay in touch with those people, but you also need to connect with new people. You always need to be building that network. And of course, building your network doesn't take place just at the networking event. You need to get people's contact information, not just shoving your business card into people's hands, but after you speak with them, after you've talked with them for a while and you see, oh, wait, there's somehow that I can help this person. That's when you make sure to get their contact information, and you have to follow up. You have to schedule a phone call, a Zoom call, a coffee meeting to get to know each other better. On average, you're going to have maybe 2 minutes to talk to somebody at a networking event. Well, you don't really form a connection in most cases in 2 minutes. It does happen, but the networking event is the appetizer. That's when you're tasting, you're seeing different things. Then you have to follow up for the main course. You need to connect with people, meet with them, learn more about what their needs are, and hopefully find commonalities that you can commiserate over, that you can connect with. This way, you know who to connect with, which goes back to what Chip was saying in the first place. This is how you know, oh, those two people need to be connected. I'm going to introduce them because you've taken the time to get to know them. It's not just superficial. It's not just, oh, they're both in the same industry. Let me see if this works out. You've taken the time to find out about them. And that's when the connections happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's there's two different types of networking scenarios. One is your business after hours thing where everybody's in a room, and that's where people get most intimidated if that's their first experience in networking, because they're afraid to walk up to people and they're hoping people will walk up to them and so on. And you and I both teach as far as how you can break the ice. And the best thing to do is most people are wearing a name tag or whatever. Just walk up, introduce yourself, and ask them their name and what they do and get them talking. And that is an icebreaker right there where you can start learning about each other. So if you can force yourself to do that at networking meetings, that starts the process really well. But the other way to do things that is easier these days is more formal networking meetings like a BNI or like a chamber morning meeting where everybody is going to sit down and you're going to go around the room and you're going to do a 30-second commercial where you can, number one, talk about yourself, but number two, write down the names of people that you want to meet. And the best way that you can make a difference with your commercial is to be prepared to give that commercial there, which when I start networking meetings, it's basically what is your value added? It's not what your products and services are. If you're a mortgage broker, people don't care what the rates are. If you're a housing person, people don't care what the inventory is and so on and so forth. Basically, putting together stats, if you're a geek for websites and so on and so forth, you may feel good talking about it, but everybody else is going to be falling asleep. But what's your value added? How do you make people feel comfortable and solve problems? That's number one. Number two, if you got 50 people in the room, have a specific ask as far as somebody that you want to meet. It could be a person that you want to meet to network with, or it could be a business and so on and so forth that's out there. Do some research, and the more specific you are there, the more specific people might have something for you after the meeting. And then number three, be proactive. Say, look, I'd like to help you out too. Let's get together after this meeting and set up a coffee date. If you could put that in a 30-second commercial, keep it really, really brief, and then write down the names of the people that you want to add to your list to talk to after the meeting to set those things up. That's the way to get it going at a networking meeting where there are a whole lot of attendees. So again, if you're going to an after hours, make it a habit to be able to go up and introduce yourself to people and get them talking. But if you're at a networking meeting with a whole bunch of people and you're giving commercials, just value added, what's your ask, and something specific to set up appointments. And that will get the process going. And once you get a few of those going, you're going to turn into a super connector just because of the way that you're handling yourselves, and people are going to start approaching you. That's the way the process worked. I was the shy guy when I started out. I'm sure most of us were, but here I am now. And I still find that a little bit troubling for me to walk up in a room full of people that I don't know and just walk up and start introducing myself to people and getting them talking. I mean, I'm a shy guy by nature, which most people don't know that. You know, I think it's my alter ego, but it isn't.
Yeah, and it's not as difficult as people think to walk up to somebody. And you can do it very simply. If you don't know what to talk about, just say, "Hi, my name is," give them your name. "What brings you here?" And that gets the conversation started. So once you get it started, conversations tend to flow. So that makes it so much easier. And going back to something Chip said about having a specific ask, you know, most people don't have the name of someone they're trying to meet. And you don't need to know the person's name. We've talked on previous podcasts about creating a customer avatar. That's who you're looking to meet. So if you've already defined who your best clients are, you should have also defined who can introduce you to those clients. So when you have your specific ask, you're looking for the people that can introduce you to those clients. You can also be looking for a position. I'm looking for an HR representative at the local bank, whatever that bank's name is. You may not know who that person is, but once you give the name of the bank and you say you're looking for someone in HR or you're looking for a branch manager, people know the bank, so they can start thinking, "Oh, wait a minute, I know such and such who's at that bank. He's not in those positions, but I can connect you to them and they can connect you to the person you're looking for." And that is more than likely how it works. It's very rare that you walk into a networking event and meet the person you're looking for. It's usually you meet someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows the person you're looking for.
Yeah, it's based the 7 degrees of separation.
Yep.
I love starting the meetings with, you know, in at our chamber, we're back up to having 50 people at our meetings again. And when there's 50 people at the meeting and I ask who's there for the first time and so on and so forth, um, then I say, the bad news is you don't have 50 potential clients here in this room because people don't come to meetings with shopping carts. And that usually gets a
Yep.
laugh. Nobody goes to networking meetings to buy things. But I say, the good news is everybody has, everybody knows an average of 200 people. And I get people sometimes to visualize yourself standing against the wall, everybody, where there's a door behind you. And once you develop trust with the person in this room, that door opens and their 200 relationships become potential resources for you just by developing that trust. And I said, this is very powerful because if there's 50 people in this room, that is 10,000. 50 times 200 is 10,000 potential resources right in this room just by developing relationships with people. That's the power of networking for business or for whatever else that you're doing. Once people understand that, and the fact that they have to be prepared to come to a meeting and do their homework and so on and so forth, that's what makes this thing works. And that's, why our local chamber and other chambers that are doing very, very well are doing very well as far as member retention and people renewing, because the people coming to networking meetings in our chamber and other chambers who are doing it right in networking organizations are getting results from the meeting because they are doing it right instead of just showing up and socializing. And once they do that, instead of having the board of directors or the people who run the organization try to recruit everybody, if it's working for you, you're going to go tell your friends about it and you're going to want to stay there. So you're going to renew, and you're also going to bring people, and you're helping with the recruiting process. And that's how you grow a wonderful network for a chamber of commerce or an organization, but also for your business, is just by being like that. And it's not hard to do. You just got to get started.
Exactly. And something else that sets super connectors apart is that they are always willing to share their knowledge. And I've heard this a lot of times. People go, well, if I tell them what I don't know, then they won't need to hire me. Well, first of all, you're not supposed to be looking for direct clients. You're supposed to be building your network to bring in referrals. But also, you're not going to give away the store. You're not going to tell them everything they need to do. You're going to give advice. And there's a big difference, because what people tend to think about superconnectors, if they want to get information about a given topic and they know that person shares information about it, that person is going to be their first stop. So they're going there before any of their competitors, before anybody else. And that's when it's potentially a sale. But even more than that, you will have people say, well, this is what the person's sharing for free. Now imagine how much he knows and gives to his customers. Because nobody expects you to give everything away, but you do have to share. You have to share your resources, share your connections, share your knowledge. And when you share frequently, when you share freely, you become a super connector. You become the go to guy or go to girl. You become the person that people go to when they have a question, when they have a problem, when they need to find a product or service. And that's the essence of being a super connector. And it's all about what goes around comes around. Because when you have provided help and then you need help, almost everybody that you have provided help to is more than willing to come to your aid, to make connections for you, to help find you referrals. On a personal note, if you need a service or a product to deal with something going on, they're more than happy to help you find those referrals, to find those services, because they know you do that for others and you've done that for them. So that's at the core of being a super connector, is share.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I talk about value added, I'm talking about it for your networking commercial. Obviously, it's what you do professionally, but your big value added is you personally, and everything that you just talked about as far as other things you do outside of that. Because the bottom line is, once you get to meet people, you're going to learn all kinds of interesting things about them. And it's a great way to connect others. I mean, perhaps somebody that you know may be in the same little league as somebody else's dad or something like that. And you're going to find things in common just by getting to know people that way. But it's so important to just start learning about these things. And one of the best things you can do after you meet somebody for the first time, or after you meet with somebody, a few times, is take notes, write things down. So if the next time you see that person, you can ask them, hey, I know that you were going on a trip the last time that I met you. How did that go? And all of a sudden, people are going to say, hey, this person really cares about me. I mean, there's a saying goes, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's what it's all about. And that's what personal networking is all about. Is caring. That's what it all starts with. I mean, it all gets back to the foundation that we talk about all the time, the core that's within us that connects us all. And that's so important to get back to that. I mean, things are a whole lot simpler than they seem to be when you look at how to make this work. It just goes back to sincerely wanting to develop relationships and help people out. And these are ways to do it.
Yes, they are. And you want to connect in as many ways as possible. So you go to as many different events as you can. Don't forget to follow up with folks. And don't forget about social media. When you meet somebody at an event, you've gotten their contact information, find them on LinkedIn, find them on Facebook, connect with them. Aside from making a deeper connection that way, you're also going to learn more about them because there's things they'll post or put on their profile that they might not mention at a networking event. So don't neglect social media. Use that to build those connections. And it goes both ways. You can build connections on social media and then meet up with these folks at networking events. So use social media as a networking tool. Find the people you want to connect with, get to know them. And that's also a great way to find the networking events. Is look on social media because most people promote their events on social media. So you can always find them. And again, you have to be persistent. You have to keep going to events. You have to keep following up with people. Networking is not one and done. It's about a process. It's about what you can give to other people to build those connections. And that's how you build a network and become a super connector. Now, of course, we've been talking all about how to be a super connector. Before we run out of time, we should touch on why you want to be a super connector. And the answer is pretty simple. The super connectors are the people that other folks go to first. They're the ones that people come to when they have a question, when they're looking for a product or service. And if they're looking for your product or service, they're going to come to you because you're a super connector. And if they know somebody who's looking for your product or service, you're the one they're going to want to connect them with because even if you don't know the answer to a question, the odds are you know where to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. We have talked about different places where you can go to network, but one of the best things you can do too is develop your own strategic partnerships. And these could be groups of people that get together often to help each other out. And once you're known for that and you are helping people out by introducing everybody you know there, that's another way to do that. I mean, when I talk about sources for networking, I talk about the normal things like chambers of commerce and BNI and Rotary and all these other things that are out there. But I also say start your own. Grab a couple people, have them out to
Yep.
lunch, and maybe, I mean, you do this for your business, peer advisory groups that meet monthly and so on and so forth. And it could be to help each other with business, or it could be a particular topic, like for you, helping people to get through this maze of what social media is all about and what are the best things for you, your business and your profession, and these types of things. I mean, it's just about anything that you want can be done by having the right connections just asking and going to people and then becoming the person that people come to, just like you are talking about. That's what it's all about. That's what super connectors are. And it is a process, but the more that you have that mindset to do that and that giving mindset, the quicker it becomes. And if that becomes habit, look out, you'll become a super connector and you're going to be having people approaching you that you never thought you would meet in the world either. So
Very true. And of course, one thing that you should always do is you should always carry business cards. Not just when you're going to a networking event, but when you're out. If you're going to the supermarket, meeting someone for coffee, carry business cards because you never know who you're going to strike up a conversation with and who you're going to meet. And we are just about out of time. So, Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway for our listeners this week?
Well, it all starts with a giving mindset. And if you can go into networking, not being intimidated, but going to a meeting saying, how can I help other people here? And develop into that. And this starts with your own mindset for life. But when you're meeting people, that's what it's all about. And once you become known as that giver and you have the resources to help people out with when they come and approach you, they're going to be approaching you to give that to you also. And so it starts with mindset. And the more that you do it, and the more that you get to know people and connect people with each other and become known as that, it becomes you, and you become a super connector, which is going to attract other super connectors and other people. And if the world did more of this, as far as for helping each other out with different things besides things that I believe in and things that you believe in and so on and so forth, think about social media for a day without people ranting and raving. Think of just having a connector social media network for a day. Just do that. That's your next thing to start, Garrett. Eric.
There you go. Yeah, I think for me, the big takeaway is you have to be a giver. You have to be willing to share your knowledge, to help the people you're meeting, because that's how they're going to get to know you and they're going to help you in return. Givers gain, but you have to give first. And that is so important. When you walk into a networking event, when you walk into a meeting, you should be walking in with the mindset, how can I help the people in this room? And that's the core of networking. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch every episode at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.